Devotional Buddhism is what the 500 million Buddhists around the world largely practice. But what is it and why is it so important? So let's take a step back in time right now. If you were back when Shakyamuni Buddha was alive, you could have gone to the Buddha, you could have seen the Buddha, you could have heard the Buddha. And when you're in the presence of an enlightened being, this enlightened teacher, the Buddha, you are transformed in a way mentally, physically, everything else. And so we don't have that in our world right now. Shakyamuni Buddha is no longer physically here inside our world. So how do we continue this practice under him? So he's not a god, but he is an enlightened teacher. He's a teacher that we have faith in. We have faith in him as our teacher, his teachings, and his monastic community. And that brings us confidence in our practice of Buddhism. So as Buddhists, this confidence and faith in this triple gem, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, provides us the foundation of our devotional practice. We are devotional because we have the faith and confidence in that triple gem. And what we are doing in devotional Buddhism is bringing the Buddha or a Bodhisattva to us. Since we don't physically have them here right in front of us, being in the presence of an enlightened being, an enlightened teacher, helps us on that path. For example, if you have reverence and faith and trust and compassion and everything else for this enlightened teacher, and you have them physically in front of you, would you want to do unwholesome things, unwholesome thoughts? No, because of your faith, trust, confidence, reverence inside them. And that's what we're doing with bringing devotional Buddhism into our practice. Because when you have them in front of you, you are transformed. You are removing the mental defilements that you have, the three fires, three poisons of greed, anger, and ignorance. We are able to push them out, these unwholesome things which result in unwholesome karmic actions, and instead have something very wholesome inside us, a Buddha or a Bodhisattva. And when we have these enlightened beings, visually, that we have visualizations of them, or other practices that we do, we are able to bring them into our world right here, right now. And that is truly transformative for our practice, our mind, everything else. So we are not devotional in a way that's just purely an unconditioned faith. It's a very much a faith where we have this trust and confidence inside the triple gem. So the importance of bringing the Buddha towards us is not just this abstract figure. We are also bringing forth the Buddha inside us. So the Buddha said that we all have essentially Buddhanature. We all have the innate capability to become an enlightened being like him. So because of that, when we are doing this devotional Buddhism, when we are doing certain practices before a Buddha or Bodhisattva, it's not just to them, but also it's a reflection of what's inside us. Because of this Buddha nature, we are going, right now, maybe I can't see it completely. I can't see this enlightened being, this enlightened nature inside me, the true nature of myself, nirvana. I can't see that, I can't do that, but I have faith and trust and confidence in this path to continue on. But when I'm doing these practices, you are also very skillfully doing that for yourself. Because when you bow before a Buddha, when you are doing prostrations, when you are doing chanting, yes, it is to the Buddha or a Bodhisattva, but also to the enlightened being, the Buddha inside you. So wouldn't you want to show that reverence, that faith, that trust, that confidence, that compassion, that love for the true self inside you, for that Buddha nature inside you? As Buddhists, we want to, because our goal is to become enlightened. It is to become this enlightened being who has realized nirvana and is truly living as they should live in this world, in this existence. And so it's very much a dual practice in that way, because as you are visualizing the Buddha and you're paying homage to the Buddha and reverence and everything else, you are generating loving kindness, compassion, generosity, charity, all these wholesome traits inside Buddhism, which gives rise to that Buddha nature. But you are also doing that for what's inside you. It's almost like pouring water or pouring nutrients, if you will, in a garden. You know, that Those seeds aren't going to sprout on their own. If we just take an intellectual or conceptual understanding of Buddhism and Buddhist teachings, it will only get us so far. This is because a lot of these teachings and practices are beyond our intellectual or conceptual understanding of them. Buddhism is the true nature, is trying to reveal that true nature of our world and ourselves. And so if we just try to take this very textbook approach to it, I'm going to read the sutras, I'm going to intellectually understand it, and when I have this conceptual understanding, I will be enlightened. It's not going to get us very far. Because you have a very balanced approach in true Buddhist practice. For example, we have the threefold training where we have wisdom, we have conduct morality, and we also have concentration. So this is the Eightfold Path, really grouped into those three sections. The Buddha did not make the Eightfold Path, or we even have things like the Six Perfections. These don't exist independent of each other. So for example, I can't just focus purely on wisdom, or maybe purely on meditation, or purely on this or that. I have to have this balanced approach. So an enlightened being needs to progress on this path, or one who wants to become an enlightened being needs to progress on this path in a balanced approach. So when we are doing devotional Buddhist practice, it is helping us have that balanced approach to our practice. Now, how do we do devotional Buddhist practice? You're probably doing parts of it already. So when you go to a temple, or maybe for your home Buddhist practice, you're probably bowing towards a Buddha or a Bodhisattva. That's devotional Buddhist practice. As I mentioned, of course, you're showing that reverence, that honor, that gratitude towards that enlightened being who's not physically in your presence, but through the statue or the illustration or painting, you're able to do it that way. And that's what we saw, especially after the Buddha died. After some time passed, people wanted to bring the Buddha into their life. They no longer could go see him, or those future generations no longer were able to actually see this enlightened being. So that's where statues and imagery became so important to help us bring that Buddha into our lives. Seeing that enlightened being, understanding that enlightened being is also inside us, that Buddha nature, helps us with that practice, because our subconscious is very much engaged with visual stimulation, not very much the intellectual. For example, if you are going to understand maybe one of these Buddhist concepts, maybe it is very difficult to understand, you could spend forever trying to understand the intellectual portion of it, read all these analyses and scriptures, and yes, that can help. But the visualization, the practice can probably get you there alongside that, but sometimes on its own. So understanding things intellectually only gets you so far. This gets you that balanced approach. So the bowing, of course, that's showing humility. We're trying to break down our ego, right? And so we're trying to get towards our inner true Buddha nature, our true natural state of nirvana. We have to do that by breaking down this control, this ego our mind has over us. And we do that by bringing a Buddha inside our mind, a Bodhisattva inside our mind, by breaking down, well, I'm not going to bow, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that because I'm too proud to do that. And you may not think that this way, but subconsciously you probably are. We're all like that. And so when you're able to break that down through these practices, it's almost like polishing that mirror or polishing that window. You're getting clearer and clearer and clearer along the path. So bowing, prostrations, very popular. Again, this is not towards a God, but towards our teachers, these enlightened beings that we want to eventually get to. This is our aspiration, our effort, our determination, our confidence, faith, everything you want to call it. This is why we're devotional, because we see that as the object of what we want to get to. As Buddhists, we want to get to that point. So when you're doing these practices, bowing, prostrations, you're helping with that, breaking down that ego. When you are giving offerings, whether that's maybe food offerings, water offerings, flower offerings, etc., you are practicing that generosity, that compassion, that charity, all those things that help also break down the ego, but you're bringing forth the qualities of an enlightened being. If we look at a Buddha or a Bodhisattva, we don't think of them as selfish or not giving or anything else like that. And so we're doing that with our practice, whether it's at temple or at home. We're continuing that practice. We're trying to build this compassion, this charity, this generosity, this loving kindness, which are so important inside Buddhism. So those practices very much are helpful. You also will have chanting. So when we chant a sutra, this is bringing forth the Buddha into our lives. So for example, if we were back when maybe the Buddha was alive, or if another Buddha or another Bodhisattva, they are physically, verbally giving the teachings, right? The sermon. We don't have that. So we bring the Buddha or a Bodhisattva into our world, whether that's through a Dharma service at the temple or in our daily practice. We bring them here with us, and that's transformative. Or recitation of a Buddha's name is very popular as well, because when you're reciting this enlightened being's name, you are bringing that visualization, that name, everything into our world right now and right into your practice. That is why Buddha name recitation is so much like a meditative contemplation in many ways. Yes, it could be a vow, it could be very much part of your faith, but it's also bringing that Buddha to you. For example, when you have the three fires of greed, anger, ignorance is going around in your head, and we're not always aware of it, but when we do Buddha name recitation, that gets pushed out. And what do we have inside our mind? We have the wholesome qualities of a Buddha or a Bodhisattva. So it's a very much important part of devotional Buddhist practice as well. So when we're doing these things, it helps us in many other ways along the path. I mentioned meditation, right? So meditation is just not purely sitting on that cushion or walking meditation or anything else like that. You need to get to that samadhi, that concentration portion. But how do you get there? Well, is it just trying to calm yourself and try to get to that insight? Let's look at it through the eyes of devotional Buddhism. When you are having thoughts going around in your mind and maybe you're getting frustrated with your practice, devotional Buddhist practice, remember, we got faith and confidence as part of that. When you have that, these little minor inconveniences go away. That gives rise to calm. So when you're calm, because the Buddha is right here, just imagine again, the Buddha is right in front of you, helping you with the meditation, as we were maybe way back when, 2,600 years ago when he was alive. Now we are able to go, oh, I have faith in him. He's in alignment. He's made it. And then that gives me rise to calm. That gives rise to ease. And ease gives rise to concentration. So devotional Buddhist practice is something that can seem very confusing and maybe something that you don't want to try. But the more you practice it, the more you get engaged with it, the more you let your perceptions, assumptions, everything else go away, and that may take some time, you're able to benefit from this devotional Buddhist practice. Because again, you're not doing this to honor a god or a supernatural being. You're doing it to show reverence, honor, gratitude to the triple gem, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, an enlightened being like a Buddha or Bodhisattva that's helping you get towards that end goal. So we can also become enlightened, our inner Buddha nature, so that we can realize the true natural state of nirvana. So in general, Buddhist devotional practice is multifaceted. You're going to find things like pilgrimages, circumambulations around and prostrations around a stupa or pagoda. You're going to see a variety of holidays and maybe observance days throughout the month on the lunar calendar. And so all of these are designed to help us continue our devotional Buddhist practice, to get us on that path, keep us on that path, and get to the end goal. And so again, just a purely intellectual understanding of Buddhism, conceptual understanding, that may impress some people, but it's not going to get you to that end goal. It's a very much a continual effort, as though you were going to the gym, so you have to be able to continue on this journey and practice Buddhism in a consistent effort in order to bear those fruits, to water those wholesome karmic seeds inside you, that give rise to enlightenment Bodhi. And so we can do that through devotional Buddhist practice. This is, of course, was just a high-level overview of devotional Buddhist practice. But what I would want to say to any Westerner listening to this is don't look at it so much with skeptical eyes. And you may have perceptions and assumptions. But as much as possible, let that go. Engage in the practice. When you go to temple, for example, or maybe you don't have a temple near you and you're watching it maybe on a live stream, for example, let it go and just get engaged in practice. Focus on the form, focus on the purpose of it. And if you go to a temple, you can ask a monastic beforehand. You can also ask a volunteer. There's these Dharma friends we have are other lay practitioners, which are really important. These are people joining us on this path, this journey. They will be more than happy to show you how to do this. Maybe a layperson may not know fundamentally the deep purpose of a particular practice, and that's perfectly okay. It's not important to know that. And you can also talk to monastics, maybe after services or during a class to help you build your understanding. But engaging in practices, which may to you look at some parts cultural, maybe some parts maybe superstitious, or maybe we're doing it this way. But when we let that go and continue to practice consistently, that's where you start to go, okay, I got this. I understand why now. Or even if you don't understand why, those worries you had, or those, the things inside your head just go away, and it's part of your practice and becomes a wholesome and, I'm going to say, welcome and good part of your practice. So devotional Buddhist practice, not something to be worried about or go, I don't want to practice that. Really give it a fair look and fair shot in your Buddhist practice. And I hope you find it to be as beneficial as the 500 million Buddhists around the world look at it. Do you have any questions about devotional Buddhism and devotional Buddhist practice? I'd like to hear from you in the comments below, and I look forward to talking with you in our next episode. Thank you.